Have you ever, felt like you're working constantly, your team is completely exhausted, you are hitting all your individual efficiency targets, and yet somehow, wait, no, somehow nothing actually gets out the door on time?
Oh, yeah. That's incredibly common, actually.
Right, you're basically sprinting on a treadmill that's just cranked up to the maximum speed, but you're not actually moving forward, you're just sweating.
Exactly. It's an incredibly frustrating place to be.
Hmm.
And, you can really feel the energy draining from a team when
Hmm.
they realize their hard work just isn't translating into actual results.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But in our deep dive today, we are looking at a framework that diagnoses and fixes this exact brand of chaos. And it all begins with a guy named Alex Rogo, who is, frankly, having the absolute worst morning of his life.
Oh man, let's set the scene because the stakes here are intensely high right from the jump. So, according to the source material we're diving into today, which is Eliyahu M. Goldratt's legendary business novel, The Goal.
Such a classic.
It really is. So, Alex is a plant manager for this massive manufacturing facility, and he pulls into work at 7:30 in the morning, already completely exhausted, only to find a crimson Mercedes parked right in his reserve spot.
Yeah, the license plate literally reads number one.
Which is not the kind of subtle message you want to see before you've even had your coffee, right?
Definitely not. I mean,
Yeah.
that car belongs to his boss, the division vice president, Bill Peach, and Peach is furious.
Beyond furious. There is an order for a major customer, Bucky Burnside, order number 41427, and it is 7 weeks late.
7 weeks.
Yeah, Burnside was screaming at Peach on the phone the night before, and now Peach is standing in Alex's office laying down this terrifying ultimatum.
Hmm.
He tells Alex he has 3 months, just 3 months to turn this hemorrhaging plant around.
Or else.
Right, or else the plant gets shut down and all 600 people working there lose their livelihoods.
It is, it's the ultimate pressure cooker scenario. And the irony of the whole situation is that if you were to walk the floor of Alex's plant and just look at their, local efficiency metrics, you'd think they were doing great.
Right, the numbers look good on paper.
Exactly. The machines are running constantly. The people are working incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But the actual product isn't shipping, and the plant is just losing money hand over fist.
Yeah. And I was reading through the notes here, and Alex is completely paralyzed by this. But by sheer coincidence, he happens to be at O'Hare Airport shortly after this whole ultimatum, and he runs into his old physics professor, this guy named Jonah.
Right, Jonah.
And Jonah has become a consultant now. And within just a few minutes of talking, Jonah knows exactly why Alex's plant is failing, even while Alex is actively bragging about how, efficient his robots are.
Yeah, Jonah zeroes right in on the language Alex is using, because Alex is so proud that his machines have these high utilization rates. But Jonah asks him a very simple, cutting series of questions.
I loved this part.
He says, did your high-efficiency robots help you sell any more products? Did you lay anyone off to reduce costs? Did your massive piles of inventory go down?
And Alex just has to sit there and say no.
Right. When Alex admits the answer is no to all three, Jonah points out that the plant isn't actually efficient at all.
Okay, wait. I need to jump in here and push back a little, representing everyone listening who has ever managed a team or tried to optimize a workflow.
Sure, go ahead.
If a manufacturing plant is producing parts at maximum speed and utilizing all its resources, how can they be failing? I mean, isn't the whole point of a factory to produce products as efficiently as possible?
Well, that is the exact trap Alex falls into. And it is the core illusion that Goldratt really wants to shatter for you here. Producing products is not the goal. Capturing market share is not the goal.
Wait, really?
Really. Employing good people, having high technology, achieving cost-effective purchasing, none of those are the ultimate goal. Jonah gives Alex a brutal reality check. The true goal of a manufacturing organization is simply to make money.
To make money, period.
Yeah, period. Everything else is just a means to achieve that single goal.
Okay, I see.
An action is only productive if it moves the company closer to making money. So if a machine is working at 100% efficiency, but it's just building up a stockpile of inventory that isn't actually being sold, that is not productive.
To just sitting there.
Exactly. In fact, it is actively counterproductive. You are tying up your company's cash and raw materials,
Yeah.
you are taking up valuable floor space, and you're creating a massive management headache, all without generating a single dime of revenue.
Okay, so if the goal is strictly making money, Jonah must have a master plan to fix this, right? But looking at the narrative, Jonah refuses to just hand Alex a step-by-step checklist. He actually leaves to catch a flight and forces Alex to figure it out himself.
Yeah, he just bails.
Why not just give him the answers? He's a consultant. Isn't that his job?
Well, it's because of how human beings actually internalize knowledge. This is a brilliant meta-theme of the book. Jonah acts as a Socratic guide. He only asks questions, forcing Alex to deduce the solutions through his own logic.
Ah, so he has to work for it.
Right. If Jonah had just handed Alex a 3-ring binder of new policies, Alex and his team would never have developed the deep, fundamental understanding required to completely upend their corporate culture. Knowledge has to be earned through critical thinking to be successfully applied. You can't just be trained, you have to truly learn.
That makes a lot of sense. So Alex goes back to his team at the plant, and they have to start learning. And the first thing they have to unlearn is this massive sacred cow in the manufacturing world, the myth of the balanced plant.
Oh, the balanced plant, yeah.
Because up until this point, the gold standard for management was the idea that every single resource's capacity should perfectly match market demand.
And, I mean, if you look at it superficially, it sounds completely logical. If your market demands exactly 100 widgets a day, you should tune every single machine and every single worker in your factory to produce exactly 100 widgets a day. No more, no less.
It seems like the perfect way to minimize expenses and eliminate waste.
It does.
It sounds great on a spreadsheet, right? But in reality, it's like trying to perfectly time every single traffic light in a major city based on the exact mathematical average of cars per minute.
That's a great way to put it.
Right, because if every single person drives the exact speed limit and no one ever touches their brakes and no one ever looks at a text message, it works. But the moment one single car stalls out, the entire grid locks up.
Yes. That is a perfect analogy for why a balanced plant is a dangerous fantasy. Jonah helps Alex realize that trying to perfectly balance capacity with demand will actually destroy your throughput.
And why is that?
Well, the reason comes down to 2 intersecting phenomena.
Huh.
Dependent events and statistical fluctuations.
Okay, let's break those down, because this seems like the foundational math of the whole theory.
Absolutely. So a dependent event simply means step B cannot start until step A is finished.
Makes sense.
And a statistical fluctuation means that even a machine tuned to produce exactly 10 parts an hour will have variance. 1 hour it might produce 9, the next hour it might produce 11.
Okay, so things fluctuate. But shouldn't that average out over the course of a week? Like if I'm down 1 part today but up 1 part tomorrow, it washes out, right?
That is exactly what traditional managers think. And it is mathematically false when you are dealing with a chain of dependent events.
Why?
Because in a dependent chain, delays accumulate, but gains do not.
Explain the mechanism there. Why don't the gains accumulate?
Let's say step A and step B are both supposed to take 5 minutes. If step A has a negative fluctuation and takes 7 minutes, step B just sits there idle for 2 minutes, waiting.
Right. It can't do anything without the part.
Exactly. The whole system is now delayed. Now suppose on the next round, step A has a positive fluctuation and finishes in just 3 minutes. Step B gets the part early.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Step B still takes 5 minutes to do its own job. It can't magically work faster just because the part arrived early. The time lost on the first round is gone forever, and the time gained on the second round is swallowed by the next step's baseline speed.
Wow. So when you have hundreds of machines linked together in a perfectly balanced plant, the negative fluctuations compound exponentially down the line.
Exactly. The delays snowball. And what do managers do when they see machines sitting idle waiting for parts?
They panic.
They panic. They force those machines to work on something, anything else, just to keep local efficiencies high. So they start processing parts that aren't even needed yet, which leads to massive mountains of excess inventory.
All while the actual parts you need to finish Bucky Burnside's late order are buried at the bottom of the pile.
Exactly. It's a disaster.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit, but how does Alex Rogo, this stressed out guy just trying not to get fired, actually visualize this complex physics problem? I was looking at the notes, and his epiphany doesn't happen in a boardroom or on the factory floor.
No, it doesn't.
It happens on a weekend hike with his son's Boy Scout troop.
Yeah, it is arguably the most famous sequence in the book, and it really crystallizes the entire theory of constraints.
It's so vivid. So Alex is leading this hike. It's a single file line of boys walking through the woods. And Alex notices that the line keeps spreading out. The gap between the kid at the very front and the kid at the very back keeps getting wider and wider.
And he realizes it's because of one slow hiker right in the middle of the pack.
A kid named Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
Yeah.
And, you know, Herbie is trying his absolute best, but he's a bit heavier, and he's carrying an incredibly massive backpack.
Right. So the kids in front of Herbie are walking fast. They represent the fast, highly efficient machines in a plant, but it doesn't matter how fast they walk because the kids behind Herbie can't physically get past him on the narrow trail.
Exactly.
The line spreads out. And Alex realizes that the distance between the first kid and the last kid is the equivalent of inventory piling up in a factory. If the goal of the hike is for the entire troop to arrive at the campsite together, the speed of the troop is not the average speed of all the boys.
Not at all. The true capacity of the entire system is dictated solely by the bottleneck. Herbie is the bottleneck.
Herbie is the bottleneck.
It doesn't matter if you have Olympic sprinters at the front of the line. The group as a whole can only ever go exactly as fast as Herbie.
So Alex uses this to experiment. First, he takes Herbie and puts him at the very front of the line. Now, nobody can walk faster than Herbie.
Right, he caps the speed.
And the line immediately stops spreading out. The inventory stops accumulating. But the whole troop is still moving terribly slow. So Alex takes the final step. He stops the troop, opens Herbie's heavy backpack, and distributes the heavy items to the stronger, faster kids.
He increases Herbie's physical capacity.
And suddenly, the whole troop moves faster.
It's brilliant. And that Boy Scout hike translates perfectly to fixing a multi-million-dollar business. When Alex takes this Herbie concept back to his team, Bob, Lou, Stacy, and Ralph, it becomes the foundation of what Goldratt calls the theory of constraints.
They realize they have to stop managing the plant as a collection of independent machines, right?
Exactly. They have to start managing it as a single interdependent chain.
Which brings us to the operational core of this deep dive. The team develops a framework called the 5 focusing steps. How do you actually find your Herbie in a chaotic factory of 600 people?
Well, that is step 1. Identify the system's constraints. You have to locate your Herbies.
And how do they do that?
Alex's team digs into their production data and looks for where the huge piles of inventory are sitting. They find 2 massive bottlenecks, a highly specialized machine called the NCX-10 and their heat treat oven. Everything is piling up right in front of these 2 resources.
Okay, so they know who the slow kids on the trail are. Step 2 is to exploit the constraint. And exploit is such a great aggressive word here. But how do you exploit a machine? They have no budget to buy new ones, and Bill Peach is breathing down their necks.
You exploit it by realizing a profound mathematical truth. An hour lost on a bottleneck machine is an hour lost for the entire global system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can never get it back. So you ensure those constraints are working on exactly what they need to work on 100% of the time.
I read in the notes that the machines were literally sitting idle while the operators went to take their union-mandated lunch breaks.
Exactly. Or, the operators were spending hours doing complex setups for parts that weren't even needed for months just to make their local efficiency metrics look good.
That's insane.
It is. So exploiting the constraint means you change the rules. You bring someone else in to cover the lunch break. You only feed the bottleneck the exact parts needed to fulfill current, urgent orders. You do not let that machine stop for a single second.
So if you are squeezing every ounce of capacity out of the bottleneck, what happens to the rest of the factory? That takes us to step 3. Subordinate everything else to the constraint.
Meaning every other machine must march to the exact tune of Herbie.
And they actually implement a physical system for this with red tags and green tags.
You do? The tags dictate the priority for the entire workforce. Red tags mean the part is ultimately destined for one of the bottleneck machines.
Yeah.
Green tags mean it's not. If a worker at any station has a choice, they always work on the red tag first. But they go even further. They change how they release raw materials onto the factory floor. They only release materials at the exact rate the NCX-10 and the heat treat oven can process them.
Wait, they intentionally stop putting material into the system?
Precisely. If a non-bottleneck machine finishes its work early, the operator is instructed to stop. Literally, stop working. Do not produce more parts just to stay busy.
Okay, let me stop you there because this is where Lou, the plant's chief accountant, nearly has a heart attack in the story. And frankly, I would too.
Oh, absolutely.
If I tell my top performing employees to stop working and just sit on their hands because they are outpacing the bottleneck, corporate is going to lose their minds. Traditional cost accounting says idle time is wasted money.
This is the biggest paradigm shift of the entire deep dive, and it's vital we understand why traditional cost accounting gets this so wrong.
Please explain.
Under traditional rules, inventory is treated as an asset on the balance sheet. So if a manager forces a machine to run 100% of the time, producing parts that nobody wants to buy yet, the factory actually looks more profitable on paper that month because they created assets.
Wait, so by actively destroying the company's cash flow to build useless inventory, a manager can actually get a bonus for high efficiency.
Exactly. It's a massive systemic trap. Having a worker operate a non-bottleneck machine just to create excess inventory is actively taking money away from the company's goal. True throughput is the rate at which the system generates money through actual sales, not the rate at which it produces piles of inventory.
Oh, man.
You have to sacrifice local efficiency to protect the global system's throughput.
That is a staggering realization. Okay, so step 3 is subordinate, make everyone walk at Herbie's pace, even if it means some kids are just standing on the trail waiting.
Right.
But what if Herbie is still too slow to meet the market demand? That forces you into step 4, elevate the constraint.
Yes. If you've exploited the constraint and subordinated everything to it and you still can't meet demand, you have to increase the capacity of the bottleneck. You have to give Herbie some muscle.
Okay, how do you do that?
Since Alex's team doesn't have the capital to buy a second multi-million-dollar NCX-10 machine, they look for creative ways to elevate. They find an old, dusty, entirely obsolete machine called a Zmegma sitting in the corner somewhere, and they bring it back online to run in parallel.
Even though it's much slower and less efficient than the modern machine.
Right. From a local efficiency standpoint, firing up this Zmegma looks like a step backward. But from a global perspective, it takes some of the load off the bottleneck. They elevate the capacity of that specific critical step in the chain.
And the results in the story are incredible. The backlog starts to clear. They start shipping orders, including that massive Burnside order that kicked off the crisis in the first place.
Yep, they save the day.
In fact, they get so good at this, they start shipping orders 3 weeks early. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most dangerous step. Step 5. Beware inertia.
This step is crucial because it highlights that this is a process of ongoing improvement.
What does that mean in practice?
Once they elevate the manufacturing constraints, once the NCX-10 and the oven can handle more capacity than the plant actually needs, they realize the bottleneck hasn't disappeared. It has just shifted. They are now producing products faster than ever, which means the new constraint is no longer inside the factory walls.
It's the market. Insufficient orders.
Exactly. The factory can now produce more than the sales team is currently selling. So step 5 says, if a constraint has been broken, you must immediately go back to step 1.
The loop starts over.
Right. You can never let your own past success, your own inertia, become the system's new constraint. You have to identify the new Herbie, which is now the sales department, and start the 5 focusing steps all over again to exploit and elevate sales.
It's a brilliant, complete logical loop. Alex ends up saving the plant, he gets promoted, and the town's livelihood is saved. But what elevates this from just a good 1980s business story to something you need to care about right now is in the interviews at the end of the source material.
Yes, those interviews are fantastic.
Because these principles apply far beyond manufacturing. The logic of cause and effect is entirely universal.
The real-world applications outside of standard factory settings are fascinating. The source material highlights General Motors, where a manager named Kevin Coles used the theory of constraints, not just to fix broken plants, but to design entirely new ones.
Wow, from scratch.
Yeah. He used the logic to predict where the bottleneck would naturally occur in a future design, and he structured the entire plant's architecture around supporting that predicted Herbie.
I was also struck by Richard Pittman at Positive Solutions, which is a financial advisory firm, a purely service-based business.
Right, there are no machines or physical raw materials there. But Pittman applied the 5 focusing steps anyway. They realized their core constraint wasn't selling financial products to clients, it was the pace at which they could recruit new, qualified, independent advisors.
That was their Herbie.
Exactly. Once they identified that, they subordinated their entire organizational focus away from standard sales and put all their energy into streamlining the advisor recruitment process.
The one that really blew my mind, though, was Dr. Antoine Van Gelder in medicine. How on earth does a hospital relate to a greasy factory floor?
Well, Dr. Van Gelder had a very powerful insight. He looked at his chaotic medical department. Doctors, nurses, patients waiting for beds, lab results taking days, and realized it was exactly like Alex Rogo's factory.
Just a different type of system.
Exactly. It is a complex system of dependent events with hidden causality. The patients are the work-in-process inventory. The MRI machine, or the specialist time, is the NCX-10 bottleneck.
Oh, that makes total sense.
And his profound realization was that diagnosing a broken business is exactly the same as diagnosing a sick patient. You use the scientific method. You look at the symptoms, you track them down to the core root cause the constraint, and you treat that rather than just putting Band-Aids on the symptoms.
He noted that reading the goal gave him the framework to actually see the leverage points in his hospital rather than just launching into endless symptomatic firefighting.
It's a game changer.
And then you have Kathy Serkin, who took this even further by teaching TOC thinking processes to middle school kids, proving you don't have to be a plant manager with a fancy MBA to use this. It's fundamentally about common sense logic.
It's pure cause and effect. It's really just asking three simple questions.
Hmm.
What to change to, and how to cause the change.
I love the observation Alex makes near the end of the book. He's sitting with his wife, Julie, celebrating his promotion after saving the plant, and she asks him, why didn't you just figure this out on your own? It's just plain common sense.
And Alex points out the deep irony.
Yeah, he quotes Mark Twain saying, common sense is not very common.
It really isn't, because common sense requires the courage to face inconsistencies. It requires the bravery to look at how things have always been done, like traditional cost accounting or the myth of the balanced plant or the obsession with local efficiencies, and actively challenge those sacred cows.
Which is hard to do.
Very hard.
Mm.
It's easy for us to sit here, look at the 5 focusing steps and say, well, obviously. But actually putting them into practice when your entire corporate culture is screaming at you to keep everyone busy, that takes incredible guts.
Okay, so we've covered a massive amount of ground today, from red tags to Boy Scout hikes. What does this all mean for the person listening right now?
I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, something that builds on this, but takes it into our current reality.
Let's hear it.
In the modern knowledge economy, we don't always have physical machines to look at. So what if the ultimate bottleneck in your organization isn't a server or a team's headcount or a software program? What if the primary constraint holding back your entire company's throughput is the attention span and decision-making capacity of your own CEO?
Oof.
Or, even closer to home, what if it's your own attention? If your attention is the Herbie, are you subordinating the rest of your day to protect it? Or are you letting every random email and Slack message act like a negative statistical fluctuation?
Wow, if your brain is the NCX-10, you can't afford to let it sit idle on useless tasks. Stop trying to tune every single traffic light in your life and find the stalled car.
Exactly. Find your Herbie.
Thanks for spending time with us on this deep dive. If you want to keep gaining knowledge quickly but thoroughly, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an analysis. And before you go, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us, what is the Herbie in your life or business right now? Give us a shout in the comments and let us know. See you on the next deep dive.